Desire Armon was such a pathetic mage that even a paper cut might cause him to bleed out and get reincarnated again, but then one day this idiot actually gets deleted and respawns back in high school, but this time he gets handed a cheat skill so overpowered that every enemy he sees gets clapped like the 5 out of 10 chicks in my DMs. Now, instead of playing it safe and farming XP like a sane normal person, he decides to rewrite Destiny like he is some sort of demigod or something. The story kicks off after a fierce battle with corpses everywhere and a massive monster stomping around like it owns the place. This monster, like all monsters, has the creepy ability to talk without moving its lips, and it's like a dragon if it is one. It taunts the humans, calling them fools for thinking they could beat it. The world is being swallowed by shadow worlds, the worst calamity humanity has faced. These places cover the land in black fog, killing everything they touch. The only way to stop it is by conquering these shadow worlds, but judging by the battlefield, that plan's not going too well. One hero steps up, big on confidence but low on survival instincts, and declares he'll end this nightmare by defeating the dragon, Bromir. The dragon isn't impressed and prepares to barbecue the lot of them. Some poor guy with a giant shield gets ready to shine, but before he can, our protagonist, Desire, casts a spell that stops the dragon's fire. Shield guy looks like he's just been robbed of his one chance to be useful. Bromir tries again with a stronger attack, but Desire blocks that too. He loudly announces that he's analyzed all of Bromir's spells. Basically, he's the nerd who ruins every game by memorizing the cheat codes. The team rallies and attacks. Shield guy finally gets a moment of Galadorie blocking Bromir's tail. The mage pours all her magic into powering up the female warrior, who lands the final blow. Bromir screams like someone just cancelled his favorite show, and everyone celebrates their victory. A teammate congratulates them, and Desire marvels at their success. Later, the group is celebrating when someone mentions they haven't received confirmation from the higher-ups. They're supposed to get teleported back home, but nothing's happening. One genius suggests they killed the wrong dragon, but a teammate reminds them it was definitely Bromir. Still, the mood turns sour when the mage points out only 6 out of 155 million warriors survived. That's a survival rate so bad it makes getting struck by lightning look like a safe bet. Desire gets lost in his thoughts, thinking about all he's lost, friends, comrades, and probably his sanity. The hippie of the group tries to lighten the mood by focusing on their victory. The mage, of course, has to ruin it, saying 99% of the mages died and they need to figure out what's next. The hippie insists they should pray first, which is great advice when you're surrounded by death and despair. Desire calms everyone down, and the hippie compliments Shield Guy, who's too humble to take credit and instead praises Desire. The mage marvels at Desire's ability to seal Bromir's spells. Apparently, Desire is just a commoner, which makes his skills even more shocking. The group starts talking about what they'll do when they get home. Shield Guy wants to honor his fallen friends, the hippie wants to help victims' families, and the mage plans to prevent another Shadow World crisis. Desire, meanwhile, just wants to go home, but he's haunted by memories of a girl he knew who died in battle. Suddenly, they sense something's wrong. Bromir's corpse is glowing, and at this moment, a dead glowing dragon is a very, very bad. The mage realizes the dragon's heart stored mana. When the dragon died, the mana had nowhere to go, so it's about to explode. Shield Guy steps up, telling the mage he could have mentioned this earlier. The mage defends himself, saying no one's ever killed a dragon before. As the sky fills with light, Desire tries to stop it with his magic, but it's hopeless. The group prepares to meet their end, and boom! Desire suddenly finds himself in a completely different place, wearing normal clothes. He hears applause and sees a woman welcoming students to Hebon Academy. He recognizes her as Professor Birgit, who announces that the students will take a test to determine their enrollment. The test? Clearing a shadow world. The students are terrified, but Birgit reassures them it's a safe artificial shadow world. Desire realizes something horrifying. This is the year 3613, 3 years before the battle with Bromir. He collapses, overwhelmed by the futility of it all. As he's processing this, a fiery girl named Ladoria shows up and declares she'll be his mentor. Desire remembers Ladoria as a fire mage who ranked first in the academy. She's shocked to learn Desire is a commoner and warns him he'll be placed in the beta class, where commoners get second-rate education. Ladoria drags Desire to the academy, pointing out its grandeur, but he's unimpressed, having seen similar places in his memories. They're interrupted by Alheim, a water mage who clearly has a rivalry with Ladoria. The two trade insults, with Alheim mocking Ladoria's height and Ladoria calling him annoying. Alheim laughs at Desir when he learns he's a commoner, telling him he'll never compete with nobles. Before leaving, Alheim advises Desir to skip the test and save himself the humiliation. The students are called to start the test. Ladoria is fired up, determined to make Desire pass. As they prepare, Desire becomes more certain he's in the past. He looks around, relieved not to see someone, but then a girl calls out to him. It's Romantica, the girl from his memories. Desire is stunned, but decides the reason for his time travel doesn't matter. He vows to change history and prevent the tragedy he knows is coming. Desire spots his long-lost friend and calls her name like a lovesick goat, but she has no idea who this weird guy is. She just assumes he read her name on the screen since they're in the same testing group. She wishes him luck and leaves, but Desire, as a seasoned time traveler, can't stop thinking about how heartbroken he was to lose her. He composes himself and vows to protect her from the terrible fate she once faced. The first test is AAS, beginner-level Shadow World nonsense. The school keeps it safe because no one wants a lawsuit from furious parents. Students can still take damage, but they can evacuate immediately. Desir, as the clueless cow he is, he's shocked by this. Elham shows up to explain that magic attacks are allowed. He smugly declares Desire will never pass and introduces Azest, his mentee. She's an ice magic knight, a high circle mage with vision magic and better with a sword than most knights. She's also the reliable teammate Desir remembers from the future. Elham and Ladoria bicker like mockingbirds, and Elham leaves her fuming. Ladoria tells Desir his chances against a magic knight are terrible, but encourages him not to give up. When it's their group's turn, everyone enters the Shadow World. The goal is straightforward: reach the finish line, the top 3 pass, and students can use any means: magic, interference, or general chaos. Fatal damage means disqualification. Desire, being the dense goat he is, can't focus on the race. He's too busy staring at Azest, wondering if she's also a time traveler. She knows his name, but only because she read the participant list. Azest roasts Desir for his below-average abilities, tells him he has no future, he can never make it, and he's supposed to be a dinner man serving dinner to the students.
Emotional damage!
She assures him she won't bother attacking a weakling and leaves, making it clear she's not his loyal future teammate. The race begins, and Azest sprints off like she's being chased by a bear. Romantica follows but stops to apologize to a tiny creature she bumped into. Desire teases her for liking cute things, but she doesn't understand what he means by still. She's irritated by how he acts like they're buddies and tells him to focus on the race. Desire keeps acting like a desperate fanboy, annoying her even more. Things heat up when a random fireball comes at Romantica, but Desir saves her. The attacker Eggs is furious but gets eliminated when Romantica uses her wind magic to take him out. She thanks Desir for saving her but immediately gets annoyed at his dumb, goofy grin. Realizing they're falling behind, Romantica shows off her arrow sweep spell and speeds ahead. Meanwhile, the school higher-ups gossip about how impressive it is to have a magic knight in the test. They laugh at Desir, calling him a weak and useless commoner with no future, while one woman watches him closely. In the race, Azest breezes through obstacles, but one guy following her gets smacked by a giant tree. Romantica smiles, thinking they're guaranteed to pass now. However, Romantica tells Desir to drop out because she can't stand his stupid face. She warns him not to get hurt and gives him one last chance to quit. The stubborn donkey refuses, and this infuriates her. She decides to teach him a lesson with her wind magic, but is stunned when Desire survives her attack. Not only that, but he also critiques her technique, pointing out her lack of control. Romantica loses her cool and attacks again, but Desir keeps dodging, explaining her flaws like a smug professor. Romantica, now witnessing this madness, realizes Desir's skills might actually be higher than hers. She launches a flurry of attacks, but Desire effortlessly counters them, leaving her in shock. He's determined to win, not just for himself, but to push her to become stronger. He believes it's the only way to prevent the tragic future he knows is coming. Desire pulls out a basic spell to erase friction, and reveals that Romantica hasn't been fighting him directly. He explains the test isn't about magic skill, but who can reach the goal first. Desire uses a fire spell to rocket himself forward at insane speed. Romantica calls him crazy, but he's too busy zipping past obstacles to care. Near the finish line, Azest notices Desir catching up. She unleashes a massive attack, but Desire analyzes her spells, takes control, and redirects them. She combines her spells for a final assault, but Desire adjusts their trajectory mid-flight and uses the blowback to propel himself forward. Azest is desperate to win, and this time she makes one last attempt, but Desire breezes past her like a boss. Desire is announced as the winner, but he doesn't care about the title. He only thinks about how much stronger he, Romantica, and the others need to become to face the challenges ahead. Elsewhere, a creepy guy named Dante, wearing an ugly ring, wins another group test and gives a sinister smile. Back at the school, the higher-ups continue their biased chatter, insisting the Alpha class is only for the elite. They dismiss commoners like Desire. The top old guy, who looks like Adam if he were still on Earth with his eternal beard, shuts everyone up and spills the beans about a student being considered for Alpha class. Professor Bridget, all confident and whatnot, vouches for Desire. Later, students scramble to see their placements. Desire's stuck in beta, but all he cares about is Romantica, who looks like she's been hit by a truck after seeing her own results. Romantica's now in a dumpy beta classroom, sulking about her tragic surroundings. The professor explains mage skills are ranked in circles, from the bottom of the barrel, Circle 1, to the godly Circle 7. Alpha students must at least hit Circle 2, leaving this beta crew stuck at the bottom. Romantica thinks being in beta is bad enough, but it's worse because Desire's there too, grinning like a lunatic. She's convinced he's the universe's most annoying goat. Turns out Professor Bridget's recommendation to move Desire to Alpha was shut down because the noble professors can't stand these filthy commoners. Desire's angry for all the talented but ignored commoners like himself and vows to awaken their potential no matter what. Meanwhile, Romantica's misery is interrupted by Dante, an Alpha-class snob planning to join Blue Moon, the Academy's VIP club. He invites her to join, praising her skills and noble bloodline. But there's a catch, she has to date him. Brother is as smooth as a cactus and calls it love at first sight. Romantica's too stunned to respond until Desire shows up, probably sniffing trouble like the nosy cow he is. Desire offers her a spot in his team, but she rejects him, clearly favoring Blue Moon. Desire, with the devil's grin on his face that could rival that of Shinra from Fire Force. That reminds me, where's the season 3 of that sweet anime? Desire leaves Romantica a letter. She mocks it but reads it anyway, only to get so furious she'd probably punt him if he were nearby. Later, Desire finds Pram, a kid he knows from his time travel memories as a sword prodigy. Desire's determined to help Pram train and unlock his potential. Romantica storms in, still fuming about her secret. Desire ignores her tantrum, focusing on Pram. Pram's practice fight against a red-headed Mullet Man turns into a disaster when Mullet Man bullies him even after winning. Desire steps in, smirking as he calls the bully jealous and talentless. Mullet Man gets enraged, and his head turns volcano red. He attacks, but Desire blocks the strike like he's just been attacked with soft towels. Pram's grateful, but Desire shrugs it off like the clueless cow he is. Desire takes Romantica aside and reveals her secret. Her noble title's fake, and her parents bought it. This is why she's in beta, not alpha. Romantica's upset but clings to the idea that Dante will save her. Desire reminds her that Dante's a snob who looks down on commoners. He suggests she join his party instead. She accuses him of blackmail, but Desire, with a grin from cheek to cheek, assures her he wouldn't stoop that low. Finally, she reluctantly agrees to join, mostly to spy on him and figure out his secrets. Meanwhile, Pram's reflecting on his family. His dad abandoned him, leaving behind a sword as his only keepsake. Pram dreams of being worthy of it, but when he touched it once, it broke into pieces. Clearly, it's not a happy memory. The team meets Professor Bridget to register their party. She explains the ranking tournament, where teams from Alpha and Beta classes fight for ranks. Winning can get Betas promoted to Alpha. It's nearly impossible, but Desire, the ever-delusional goat, grins and says they'll do it. Bridget admires his guts, but probably thinks he's nuts. The group's optimism takes a hit when they see the Alpha class's fancy facilities. Betas, meanwhile, get a dusty, rat-infested room. Desire cheerfully plugs rat holes and calls it home. Romantica regrets every life choice that led her here. Training begins. Romantica practices hitting targets with her wind magic. She brags about her skills, but Desire, the buzzkill cow, tells her to aim for the center. She struggles, but eventually improves. Pram's up next, but Desire surprises him by saying he's already good enough to win. Pram doubts himself, but Desire insists he's a future legend.
レイピア一本で敵を引き裂いていった。
Pram later reveals his tragic backstory. His dad's a noble who abandoned him and his commoner mom. The sword his dad left him was appraised as worthless, crushing Pram's dreams. He refuses to use it ever again. And because Desire is a meddling raccoon, he asks about the sword. Pram says he sold it, which shocks Desire. Desire and Pram decide to retrieve the sword, and Desire acts like a kid who just found his lost toy. He's thrilled to see the shady alleyway leading to the pawn shop hasn't changed. Pram is less enthusiastic and warns Desire he never wants to hold that sword again, but Desire waves it off, insisting he'll handle it. They enter the shop only to be greeted by a walking muscle mountain on steroids. Desire wonders why a pawn shop needs a guard who looks like he bench presses elephants. They meet the owner, Wu Ken, who has the charm of a wet mop and reminds them of the no refunds policy plastered all over the shop. Desire clarifies they're here to buy the sword, not plead for them to return it. Wu Ken explains the sword is useless, shocking Pram when he admits he knew it was weirdly light. Desire already knows it's a coven, a noble's fancy gift. Wu Ken says it'll cost 40 silver, sending Pram into a fit because he sold it for only 3 silver yesterday. Wu Ken smugly explains that Pram asked for a sword appraisal, not a coven appraisal. Desire understands it's business and pays up, while Wu Ken regrets not charging more. The guy warns that amateurs can't open it. Desire, in peak protagonist fashion, ignores him and uses magic to reveal hidden writing. He shows Pram how to press a groove on the hilt, revealing a hidden blade underneath. Everyone's jaws hit the floor like mountains falling from the sky because this blade isn't just metal, it's made of banam, a material tougher than steel and lighter than a feather. As they prepare to leave, Muscle Mountain blocks their way. Wu Ken's greed kicks in, and he demands the sword back, claiming the discovery of banam changes everything. Desire calls him a hypocrite but gets a laugh out of dodging the big guy's attack effortlessly. Then Pram steps up. This goat of a protagonist who usually avoids fights like they're broccoli surprises everyone by preparing to battle. Desire teases Pram about his earlier vow not to touch the sword, but Pram ignores him and focuses. The giant's attacks look deadly, and Desire doubts Pram can handle this. But then Pram starts glowing and the fight gets interesting. Pram moves like lightning, dodging blows and landing quick strikes. The giant struggles to keep up but slowly adapts. Pram's hits aren't deep enough to take him down, and Desire wonders if he's struggling to handle the coven. Things look bad until Pram notices something written on the blade. Inspired, he charges for a decisive attack, but Desire freaks out, thinking the giant saw it coming. Turns out Pram's no dumb cow, he's a clever cow. He slices through the giant's weapon and knocks him out cold. Wu Ken tries to regain control, claiming the door can only be opened by the unconscious giant. Pram, done with this nonsense, slices the door open instead. They leave, stopping for food, where Pram thanks Desire for helping him. Desire was feeling as smug as the men in black and brushes it off, saying it's natural to help a friend. Pram gets emotional, crying over how hopeless he felt before. As the clueless goat he is, Desire thinks he picked the wrong meal, but Pram assures him it's gratitude. Meanwhile, back at school, Romantica trains hard and nails a tricky wind attack challenge that Desire set for her. She's thrilled, but quickly remembers she's alone. Later, she meets Dante, who's eager to hear if she'll join his party. Before she can answer, this brainless peacock assumes she's agreed and starts introducing her to his Blue Moon group. Romantica interrupts, returning his gift and rejecting both his romantic and party invitations. Dante's tiny brain short-circuits as Romantica explains she's joined a beta-class party. She reminds him of his earlier insults toward commoners and he doubles down, claiming commoners are trash. Romantica drops the bomb that she's a former commoner. Dante's disbelief is almost funny, but Romantica stays serious. She explains her party supports her and won't look down on her like he does. Dante finally gets it and admits he wouldn't have invited her if he'd known her background. Romantica says that her party aims to reach the Alpha class, officially making them Dante's rivals. Dante is vexed like a four thumb and vows to crush them. Romantica warns him not to underestimate them and leaves. Dante's fury nearly gives him a heart attack as a flashback reveals his hatred for commoners stems from a mob destroying his home and demanding his father's execution. Fueled by anger, he vows to crush all commoners, and that only helps in proving that he's the pettiest peacock around. Desire's team enters the ranking tournament and it's time for the qualifying round. Romantica shows off by blowing a team of 5 away with her wind attack. Easy win. Pram steps up next and takes down another group. They're climbing the leaderboard fast. Then it's Dazir's turn. What does he do? Absolutely nothing. This guy doesn't even move a muscle, but still blocks every attack like he's swatting flies. The other two clean up and boom, they're in the top 30. Now the real games begin. Bridget's excited but worried because this puts a target on their backs. Meanwhile, the Blue Moon instructor is steaming mad. He reads an article about Desire's ragtag beta class team making waves and potentially becoming the first ever to join Alpha. He's not having it. This guy's ego can't handle it. He tells the Blue Moon students to do whatever it takes to stop Des' team. Cheat, lie, trip them, whatever. He singles out Azest since she's fought Des before. She's all in, ready to avenge her first defeat. She's determined, but honestly, we all know Desire's is living rent-free in her head. Later, Dante and Paral confront Azest. You'd think they're challenging her leadership, but no, these clowns just want to pick their personal fights. Paral wants to take down Pram, and Dante's eyeing Romantica. Azest lets them do their thing, but lays down one rule. Desire is hers. She's got beef, and no one else is grilling it. Meanwhile, Desire drops a bombshell on his team. No training for the final round. Instead, they're hitting the books. History books, to be exact. The final round happens in a shadow world where historical incidents are recreated. Knowing the past is the key to winning. Desire acts all nonchalant, claiming he picked incidents randomly. Yeah, right. We know he's a time traveler who's got the cheat codes. Romantica can't stop teasing Pram about his hero worship of Desire. It's cute until Desire notices and goes full dictator mode, making them focus. They're interrupted when Azest shows up to declare war. She's all like, "You're my rival and I'll defeat you this time." Desire, ever the smug cow, plays along. He's thrilled to see her fire up. His twisted goal of making everyone stronger is working. The big day arrives, the stadium's buzzing with reporters, fans, and every other WWE spectator you can find. Even Desire, the laziest goat alive, looks sharp with his tie properly done. Romantica jokes about his usual open shirt look, and they all laugh. It's game time. Desire's team steps onto the stage, ready to go. Other teams size them up. Some guy dismisses Desire as overrated. Typical. Another girl warns him to focus, but a long-haired jerk can't help but mock Desire. The announcer explains the rules. Stop an incident in the Shadow World or take out the competition. Fatal damage equals disqualification. The crowd roars as the gates open. Desire's team enters last because, of course, they're dramatic like that. Inside the Shadow World, Desire gets separated from his teammates and immediately he's attacked by an ice bolt. It's the blue-haired girl from Frozen. She's hyped to fight him, but Desire looks bored. She shows off with dual spells, mixing water and ice, but he's unimpressed with her milkshake attacks. Her combo creates a clever trap, but Desire points out her flaws, infuriating her. This guy's a master at getting under people's skin. When she tries to lecture him about magic being too advanced for commoners like him, Desire acts like the walking headache he is, keeps poking holes in her logic. She's so mad she's practically steaming like hot lava. Desire snaps his fingers and dismantles her entire attack effortlessly. She's stunned, but he's just warming up. He collects her ice shards, forms a massive crystal, and sends it flying back at her. She tries to block it, but Desire is 10 steps ahead. He breaks the crystal into smaller pieces, bypassing her defenses and knocking her out cold like a serpent. One down, plenty more to go. Elsewhere, a random nerd complains about the heat in his Shadow World location. He's wishing for sunscreen while appreciating the breeze. Back to Des, who's ready for more chaos. His overconfidence might be annoying, but it's hard to argue when he keeps delivering. This unfortunate goat of a kid gets eliminated immediately by a flashy spell from Romantica. The announcement blares his disqualification, leaving 27 participants in the game. Meanwhile, Romantica and Pram are lucky ducks, managing to find each other right away. Romantica finds Pram's worry about Desire oddly cute, but quickly shifts her focus. Using her wind magic, she detects a lone target nearby and goes for the attack. Unfortunately, her spell gets obliterated as two enemies emerge. One smugly explains that detection magic also reveals the caster's location. How considerate of him to give a tutorial mid-battle. Romantica's insulted when one of them calls her beta trash and decides to settle things with a fight. The guy keeps flapping his gums about how superior his class is, but Pram interrupts by attacking first. The opponent uses this as another chance to yap about manners. Clearly, he's more interested in delivering lectures than landing hits. Romantica soon realizes that these two aren't weaklings. The battle kicks off with swords clashing. The female opponent tries her hand at magic, but Pram's ridiculous speed terrifies her. She even questions whether he's truly in the beta class. The male opponent kicks up dirt and signals his teammate to fire a big area attack. She obliges, but this only reveals her position to Romantica, who sends her flying with a wind spell. Romantica mocks their stupidity, pointing out how they exposed themselves. The guy gets riled up, but Pram cleverly distracts him, allowing Romantica to finish him off. She remarks that he might have had a chance if he hadn't underestimated the beta class. With these two out, 25 participants remain. Romantic and Pram reflect on their progress and attribute their growth to Desire. Speaking of Desire, Romantica calls him out, knowing he's been hiding and watching. Desire, ever the weirdo, praises their performance and even pats Romantica's head like she's a pet. She's not thrilled and snaps at him, reminding him she's not a dog. The trio's banter is interrupted by a storm, with red lightning slicing the sky. Nearby, a clock tower activates, releasing a massive fire spell that incinerates some poor soul. The participant count drops to 18. Desire explains their options: either finish first by clearing the Shadow World or survive long enough to place in the top 9. He's realistic, knowing other teams will gang up on them. Romantica, ever the skeptic, thinks it'll be harder than Desire makes it sound. Meanwhile, Pram doodles on the ground instead of strategizing. Brilliant, isn't he? The rain begins, forcing them to take cover under a tree. Romantica has a moment of realization, acknowledging how far they've come thanks to Desire. Without him, she'd have joined Dante's team, where her status as a commoner would have been a major problem. Desire notices her unease and reassures them they're getting stronger. Romantica calls him a weirdo again and tells him to stop being touchy. She may insult his face, but deep down she appreciates their team. Suddenly a bell rings, signaling the start of another trial. The clock tower, a high-level magical device, produces monsters. The voice of doom announces a survival quest. Teachers watching from the sidelines are convinced Desire's team is done for. One even laughs at the thought. The team hears a scream and the participant count drops to 17. The ground shakes as a disgusting stench fills the air. Out comes a massive rat, letting out a roar. The rodents pack swarms the area. Desire identifies the cause: a KRA monster, a creature that uses mice as limbs and feeds on human blood. Lovely, isn't it? Romantica fires an airball, but it's ineffective. Desire decides their only option is to find and defeat the leader mouse among the swarm. Romantica compares it to finding a needle in a haystack. Desire makes himself bleed to lure out the leader. The little rat reveals itself and Romantica knocks it out of the air. However, the creature's high magical resistance keeps it alive. The horde continues to close in. Desire orders a retreat, but Pram, in a moment of goat-like brilliance, charges straight into the swarm. Elsewhere, other teams are also battling rat hordes. The red team's leader confidently uses a fire spell to decimate his enemies. Meanwhile, the green team initially underestimates the rats, only to be overrun when a tiny mouse lets out a war cry. Back with Desire's team, Pram is deep in the swarm, searching for the leader. Despite the chaos, he remains focused. After some effort, he detects the injured leader. Desire desperately tries to dig Pram out of the mountain of rats, but it's a tough task. As despair creeps in, Pram suddenly emerges from the pile, delivering a powerful attack that eliminates the leader. The survival quest ends, but Pram is in bad shape. Desire tends to him, placing him safely under a tree to rest. Desire reflects on his failure, realizing he pushed them too hard. He vows to never make the same mistake again and punches himself as a reminder. His team notices his bruised face but doesn't press him for details. Determined, Desire leads them toward the clock tower, rain or not. Elsewhere, the red and green teams celebrate their victories. The red team's leader boasts about his fire magic, while the green team's ice user shows off her skills. Each group braces for the next challenge, knowing the worst is yet to come. Desire Ragtag Squad finally stumbles upon the clock tower where all the surviving teams are gathering. The leaders are eyeballing each other, sizing up the competition. The scene is set. Whoever stops this chaotic mess first wins. Naturally, Desire thinks this will be a breeze. Spoiler alert, it won't. The wind picks up, but it's no gentle breeze. It's a magical beatdown. Spells come flying at a Zest team like confetti at a cheap parade, knocking out two of their members in an instant. Desire's deduction skills, if you can call them that, kick in. Only one person could pull off this synchronized magical ambush, Romantica, perched up in the tower like a smug hawk. As the elimination counter ticks down to 15 players, Azest and her 2 minions make their move up the tower. But Romantica's barrage keeps them at bay. She's on fire, metaphorically speaking, but apologizes to Desire, blaming the opponents for blocking her attacks. Desire, the resident master of bad ideas, tells her to switch targets, claiming it'll stir chaos. Romantica thinks he's officially lost his marbles, and let's be honest, she's probably right, but she reluctantly follows his plan. The green team doesn't see it coming, and their elimination is announced, down to 13 players. Meanwhile, Azest's squad kicks open the door to the tower and walks straight into a red versus green brawl. Gabriel, the hot-headed leader of the red team, accuses Azest of starting the fight. Azest denies it, but Gabriel isn't buying it. He's itching for revenge. Dess's plan to pit everyone against each other is working, sort of. Gabriel unleashes a fiery temper tantrum while Zesta turns his fanboys into popsicles. Red and green reluctantly team up, thinking they'll overpower Zesta, but she holds her ground because apparently she's built like a tank. The fight echoes through the tower, but Dez's genius scheme backfires. No one's eliminated. The tension rises as footsteps echo up the stairs. It's Azest and her crew who smugly announce they've just frozen everyone in place. Desire big brain move is officially a dud. Azest mocks his brilliant plan and challenges everyone to prove their worth in a fight. Azest isolates the group on the next floor, splitting them into one-on-one battles. Dante targets Romantica, while Pram faces off against Persol, the mullet-sporting redhead who probably spends more time styling his hair than practicing his magic. Desire fakes an injury to catch Azest off guard and hits her with a sneaky spell. He's playing dirty, but Azest freezes his snake attack mid-strike. Desire tries some inversing magic, filling the room with dust, but let's face it, he's flailing like a fish out of water. Pram, meanwhile, flips the script on Persol. The cocky mullet head is baffled that he can't land a hit. Pram's new sword technique leaves Persol fuming. He calls Pram beta trash, which, coming from someone who looks like a failed hair model, is rich. Pram, unbothered, kicks Persol square in the chest, leaving him gasping like a deflated balloon. On the other side, Romantica's having a rough time. Dante, who's basically a walking cheat code, taunts her for being out of mana. She tries to keep him at bay with wind detection, but he's packing a gadget that clears the fog. With nowhere to hide, Romantica notices Dante's wearing the necklace she gave back after rejecting him. He's clearly not over it. He calls her a commoner, spouting nonsense about nobles being superior. Romantica claps back, but Dante's too far gone, consumed by his superiority complex and daddy issues. Dante sets the area ablaze, forcing Romantica to counter with air magic, but he's relentless, knocking her back. Pram swoops in to save her, but Dante's temper flares even more. He's gone full maniac mode, vowing to wipe out all filthy commoners. Romantica, despite being battered, devises a plan. She asks Pram to lure Dante away so she can fight him solo. Pram sees through her self-sacrifice act and refuses. He reminds her of Desire's dumb grin and their promise to stick together. Romantica, reluctantly inspired, prepares for the next round. Back upstairs, Desire faces off against Azest, who's schooling him in every way, and she's faster, stronger, and better at magic, but somehow Desire keeps up using inversing magic to destroy her attacks. She's frustrated, wondering how this clown is managing to hold his ground. Desire, as smug as ever, shrugs off her confusion and keeps fighting. Azest tries to end it with a powerful spell, but Desire snaps his fingers, shattering it like it's nothing. He follows up with fire magic, but Azest dodges by encasing herself in ice. She's unharmed, but the realization dawns on her. Desire is far more dangerous than he looks. Azest's confidence wavers as she grapples with the fact that Des, despite being an all-around mediocre fighter, is holding his own. Meanwhile, Romantica and Pram ready themselves for their next showdown, determined to prove that their team, against all odds, can come out on top. Our boy Desire is back at it again, and honestly, he's still as smug as ever. He gives Azest his trademark smile, you know, the kind that screams, "I'm better than you and I know it," and tells her she needs to have some fun. But Azest isn't here for his nonsense. She's all serious business and decides he's lacking a good beatdown. She attacks, but Desire sees it coming a mile away and counters like it's nothing. Aziest's no pushover though. She dodges his fireballs and charges in with her sword, but Désir cheats by using a strength boosting spell to block her attack. Azest still manages to push him back, earning a begrudging nod of approval from our overconfident goat. Azest doesn't let up and keeps hammering Désir with attacks. He's on the defensive, which is honestly a rare sight. She's giving it everything she's got, but can't figure out why she can't land a decisive blow. Meanwhile, Désir has the audacity to wonder aloud if she's even having fun. He starts reminiscing about how Azest used to look bored out of her mind because no one ever gave her a real challenge. She doesn't know what this fun thing he's talking about is and declares she'll beat him. Désir tells her to bring it on, but she's already way ahead of him. Things heat up as Azest prepares her ultimate attack, the Frozen Throne. The entire room freezes over, and Désir immediately recognizes the technique as vision magic, a type of magic he can't invert. For once, he's caught off guard. Aziest sits on her icy throne looking every bit like a queen and unleashes a barrage of ice shards. Désir dodges them like the nimble little show-off he is, but he's clearly impressed. She's summoning magic circles like there's no tomorrow, and Désir admits to himself, of course, that this is advanced stuff. However, he's still a cocky cow and keeps destroying her circles, boasting that her magic will never touch him. Azest realizes that Désir is inverting every spell she throws at him and wonders if she can beat him with her sword instead. She decides to combine her magic and swordsmanship, a move that's both bold and unexpected. To everyone's shock, she cancels her vision magic and transforms her weapon into a magic sword, a skill that's supposed to take a decade to master, but apparently Azest's been skipping ahead in the syllabus. Down below, Pram and Romantica are dealing with their own mess. Pram manages to knock Dante away, but things get dicey when Dante's buddy Paral joins the fight. The villains start tag teaming and their coordination is brutal. Romantica regains her confidence, inspired by Désir's annoying persistence, and tells Pram to duck before unleashing a powerful attack. Back upstairs, Azest launches her newly powered-up attack. Désir tries to counter with his spells, but she's finally found a way to bypass his inverting ability. Her strikes are relentless, and she manages to destroy Désir's dagger. For a moment, she celebrates, thinking she's won. But of course, this is Désir we're talking about. He's got tricks up his sleeve and activates a spell that envelops the entire tower. The system announces that the quest has been cleared and the tower stops functioning. The ranking tournament's final round ends with Désir being declared the winner. The crowd erupts in cheers, but not everyone is thrilled. The head honcho of the Blue Moon Group, a pompous bigwig who's allergic to commoners, accuses Bridget of cheating. Other teachers step in to point out that there's zero evidence of foul play and that Désir's team won fair and square. The big guy's tantrum is promptly ignored as the single rankers are announced. Meanwhile, Désir explains his strategy. His plan was to survive long enough for the other teams to take each other out, ensuring his team made it to the top 9. But Aziest figured out his plan and froze everyone instead of eliminating them. What she didn't realize was that Désir had already started analyzing the tower. It was ancient and complicated, but he managed to figure it out during their battle. Azest realizes that he was never truly focused on their duel. He was always thinking 5 steps ahead. For once, she admits defeat. Désir, being the humble goat he is not, praises his team for their performance. Pram and Romantica show up, and Romantica tries to play it cool while secretly enjoying the praise. Azest, on the other hand, swallows her pride and asks to join Désir's training group. Romantica immediately objects, but Désir agrees to let her join, much to Romantica's frustration. Later, Désir's team meets Bridget, who has a big cake waiting for them. It's from a bakery so exclusive that people wait years just to get a crumb. Bridget jokes that they didn't pass, but then reveals that they've been promoted to single rankers. They're the first commoners to ever achieve this, and they celebrate with an epic cake feast. Désir thanks Bridget for her guidance, but she reminds him that he did all the work. As they stuff their faces, Bridget remembers a young, scrawny Désir begging her to teach him magic. Over the years, he transformed from a dweeb into the smug cow we know today. Désir and his friends are taking a break from school, and even though they're about to enter the Alpha class, this is their last chance to have some fun. As the responsible one, Désir is a bit hesitant, but his friends push him to go with them to the mall. The fun starts with the guys aimlessly wandering while Romantica tries on outfits. Desire thinks she looks fine, but Romantica wants more excitement. When he's too lazy to give her a better answer, she storms off to try something else. Desire tries to salvage the situation with compliments, but it all falls apart when he's actually talking about Pram, that little brat. Pram takes all the attention, leaving Romantica fuming. Things only get worse when Pram spends forever trying to pick a tie for Desire. Desire tries to signal Romantica for help, but she gives him a look that says, "Good luck, you simpleton." Eventually, Pram gets his way and they move on to the next part of their trip. Suddenly, Azest appears, claiming she likes a change of pace and decides to join the group. Desire invites her along, but Azest takes it the wrong way and thinks he's challenging her to a rematch. Desire wants none of it, but Azest reveals it's just a joke, which Desire can't even tell because she's about as funny as a rock. The awkwardness continues until they join the others at the arcade. Prom, focused like a goat at the claw machine, somehow wins a prize. Romantica celebrates with him, but then Desire shows up with Azest, and everything gets weird. Azest switches places with Pram so he can sit next to Desire. Romantica can't believe her eyes, she's been betrayed by her so-called friends. Desire, like a clueless cow, suggests they play air hockey. Pram gets upset when he ends up on the opposite team, and Romantica's been glaring at Azest like she's about to fight her. The game begins, and Desire warns Romantica not to let her guard down because they're playing against top-class swordsmen and magic knights. But Romantica, in her infinite wisdom, says she's got it under control, she has no idea what's coming. Pram, on the other hand, gets even more upset and wants to be on Desire's team. Desire's forced to use his quick reflexes to save the game, but Azest is not backing down. Romantica gets all fired up, but when she uses her wind magic, Desire points out how unfair that is. Azest with her ice magic does the same thing, scoring a point for her team. Things get intense as Desire gets distracted, wondering what the future holds. Romantica snaps him back to reality just in time as the puck comes flying at him. With a quick move, Desire destroys her ice magic, scoring a point of his own. Azest seems pleased that Desire's finally taking it seriously, and the real game begins. Later, Azest thanks them for the change of pace and leaves. Romantica, who's now had enough of Azest, gets some bad news from the guys. They're all going to be in the Alpha class together after school break. Fast forward to the new school year, and Romantica and Pram are freaked out by their first look at the Alpha class classroom. Pram, being the weird little guy that he is, shows off Desire's wallpaper on his tablet. Romantica's excited, but Desire drags them to practice, where they meet the newcomer, Azest. In practice, Azest holds her own against Pram, and Romantica gets angry, wanting to prove herself. She challenges Azest to show her how to get the ball in the circle, but Desire just keeps saying he's got more balls for her to deal with.
What did he say?
Romantica's had enough, but she manages to get all the balls in, no problem. Desire just smirks, saying he's got even more balls for her like some kind of ball-obsessed fool. As practice continues, Azest compliments Desire on his training style, noticing how he adjusts to everyone's strengths. Afterward, Romantica's exhausted from dealing with all Desire's balls and asks him to go easy on them in the future. But Desire, being a stubborn goat, reminds her that they have no time to slack off. The next battle will be life or death, and they need to get stronger. Class A's teacher talks about the ongoing battle between humanity and the Shadow World, explaining how the continent has shrunk by half due to the Shadow World's erosion. The teacher mentions that the magic gems found after clearing a Shadow World have been essential in stopping the contamination. When asked who invented the process to use magic gems, Romantica almost falls asleep, but Desire steps in, saving her from embarrassment. After class, Desire introduces his team to Professor Prelude, who's impressed by their abilities, even Romantica's half-asleep self. Desire hands her a request form, hoping she'll assign them to guard a branch of the magical tower. Prelude is confused, thinking he wants support for his party, but Desire explains that he knows about the Tear of a Jewel, a magical stone stored in the Heli branch. Prelude, shocked by his knowledge, presses him for answers. Desire reveals that a group called the Outers plans to steal the magical stone in 10 hours. Prelude is stunned, as this information is top secret, and wonders how Desire knows so much. He doesn't have time to explain and insists they need to act fast to protect the stone. 10 hours later, the magical tower is under attack, and an old face from the future, Master Zod, is informed that the Heli branch is under siege. Master Zod is puzzled as he checks who will be guarding the branch, and he sees someone he doesn't recognize. Outside the tower, some poor kid is running around with a bunch of bread in his hands. You can already tell this is gonna end well. The kid's obviously not great at multitasking, and just when he's about to smash the bread into the ground, some random huge buff guy comes in and floats the bread. Talk about dramatic timing, right? The kid's a bit of a nervous wreck and apologizes, looking like he's about to faint, but the big guy's all chill about it. He's probably thinking if this is some kind of punishment from the universe for his good looks. Anyway, he's cool and asks if the kid's hurt, and after a brief exchange, the kid explains that he's just in a rush to get home because his little brother's starving. The big guy, showing some semblance of care for once, advises him to hurry up. But before the kid can make a run for it, the guy drops the bread. Yup, that's right, drop it, and then crushes it. Like, really? It's bad enough to drop bread, but crushing it too? And then, bam! The situation takes a weird turn. The big guy suddenly acts like a villain from a bad movie and tells the kid to be more careful next time. The kid's probably thinking he should have just bought some chips instead of trying to impress his little brother with this lame bread, but he's too scared to say anything. But the big guy isn't done yet. He asks a shady question about whether they should end the kid's life right then and there. Whoa, calm down, buddy. But as luck would have it, the big guy decides to let the kid live. He's got bigger fish to fry. Literally, he's heading straight for the Tower of Magic. The big guy finally makes it to the Tower of Magic. I mean, with his huge army and his aura of doom, it's safe to say things aren't looking good. The guy and his army are ready to launch an attack, and it's about to get intense. Fire and ice spells rain down on the tower, but surprise, surprise, the tower is way more powerful than anyone expected. The defense is pretty much unbreakable. You'd think that would stop the guy, but no, he's not your average villain, folks. Instead, he just steps it up and calls for another wave of attacks. This time, he adds physical force, thinking the magical defenses can't block both magic and physical assaults. I mean, how stupid is this guy? But sure enough, the barrier cracks under all the pressure. Classic move. It's only a matter of time before the goons get through. Of course, the magical tower guards don't stand a chance. The big guy orders his men to wipe them out, and just like that, the guards are completely overpowered. This is like watching a football team wipe out a bunch of toddlers. There's no competition. But the big guy, whose name we now know is Kren, what a name for a bad guy, huh? Sneaks around and goes invisible. Like, hello sir, maybe don't act like you're a ninja, you're just being dramatic. But whatever, he's a sneaky one, and he finally makes it to the tier of a journal. The magical gem, that's the whole reason for this attack. The goons try their best to break through its barrier with every spell in the book, but it's no use. Then Kren pulls out the big guns. Earth Rage. This spell is like overkill. It shatters the barrier and completely crushes the box holding the gem. But the moment he lays eyes on the beautiful gem, his face lights up. Well, now we know what kind of villain this is, a gem collector. So, you know, maybe he just needs some hobby advice. Just as things seem to be wrapping up, we get a surprise. Pram, who was probably napping somewhere, suddenly steps in, and it's like the whole room freezes. He calls out the attackers, calling them the Ooters, and demands they stop. Apparently Pram's not scared at all. He calls them out on their stupidity, breaking down their forces with ease. But, as usual, Pram's show-off skills aren't enough to keep Kren's goons from getting in the way. So Kren's still on a roll, and he decides that Pram needs to be stopped. The two engage in an epic battle. Don't get too excited, it's just your average overpowered kid versus a guy who thinks he's tough. Pram's pretty good at magic, but Kren's also packing some serious punch with his earth manipulation spells. They go back and forth, but Pram's on the ropes. He's trapped and can't move, while Kren hits him with a nasty earth fist right in the gut. You've got to admire Kren's villainous technique, though, but it's clear Pram's in trouble. He's just a little Hebon student. He gets caught up in Kren's chain spell, and it's looking pretty grim. But wait, don't you just love how villains never learn? Romantica, who's been hiding like a total sneak and probably eating snacks, let's be real, jumps in to save Pram just in time. Kren's taken by surprise and barely has time to react. But even Romantica's got her limits. Her attacks are powerful, but not enough to break through Kren's rock armor. The dude's a freaking tank. Still, Romantica keeps trying. So the battle's heating up, and our heroes can't really catch a break. Pram tries his best to break through Kren's defenses, but the villain keeps coming back stronger. And just when you think they might win, Kren pulls out the big guns, Earth Rage version 2. It's a game changer, completely destroying the whole room. Our heroes are barely hanging on by a thread, but they're alive, but they're not upset, thinking that maybe Desir will help them out later. And they're right. Desire, the hero we all forgot about, walks in just as Kren's celebrating his victory, but Desire's got a surprise up his sleeve. He reveals that he marked Kren earlier when they touched hands. Yeah, the bread incident wasn't just for nothing, folks. Desire's playing the long game. Kren, being the big bad guy he is, laughs it off and gets all confident again, but Desire's not fazed. With a smirk, he starts gathering his magic and prepares to take down Kren for good. Well, things get even crazier. Desire unleashes a spell that destroys Kren's Doom Fist and stops him in his tracks. Suddenly, Kren realizes he's met his match, and with a wink, Desire says it's time for Kren to return what he stole, and just like that, Desire proves he's not just the guy who collects bread, it's game over for Kren. Kren, the big-brained genius that he is, tries everything he can to defeat Desire, but spoiler alert, it's not working. He throws one attack after another, each one more ridiculous than the last. But Desire just dodges or blocks them all like he's strolling through a field of flowers. Kren starts thinking that maybe Desire is reversing his spells, but after a moment of deep thought, which, let's be honest, probably isn't much thinking for a guy who calls himself a genius but can't even figure out basic magic, he realizes that's impossible. So what does he do? He ups the ante and goes for an even bigger attack. Good idea, Kren. Good idea. That'll definitely work, but once again, Desire casually swats his attack away like it's a fly buzzing around his head. It's honestly starting to get embarrassing for Kren. Desire, with all the chill of a guy ordering pizza, tells Kren that all his efforts are pointless. Kren's not giving up that easily, though. He tries to pull a classic villain move, threatening to destroy the gem if Desire takes another step. The gem is obviously the most important thing to him. Desire, looking like he couldn't care less, tells Kren to go ahead and destroy the gem if he wants. He's probably thinking in his head saying, "Go ahead, do it. Maybe I'll make some popcorn while you fail again." Kren is taken aback. Seriously, who does Desire think he is? But before Kren can muster up any more of his weak threats, he's already plotting the next attack. But guess what? Desire doesn't even give him the chance to finish. Kren tries to counterattack, only to realize, shock of the century, that Desire just uses gravity magic to pin him down. It's like Desire's been training on a whole different level while Kren's been out here trying to hit a piñata blindfolded. Kren's freaking out. He can't believe it. How he moving this fast was what he was wondering. Maybe he's forgotten that Desire is no slouch when it comes to magic. I mean, Kren, come on. You should have known better than to underestimate the guy who clearly knows what he's doing while you're over here like a goat stuck in a maze. So Kren's basically stuck now, lying in defeat, while Desire nonchalantly pulls the gem from his grasp. Kren's mind is blown. He sees Desire draw mana from the unprocessed gem with just a wave of his hand. Desire says he don't need to explain how it works. You're not important enough to get that info. Desire starts to push him further into the ground. It's like Desire's trying to see how far Kren will go before he sinks to China. But Kren, being the stubborn, magical cow he is, reaches up and touches his mask. Oh look, that somehow stops Desire's spell. Power surges from Kren's body, and before you know it, he transforms into something that looks like a magical beast. A magical beast, and not in the cool way. More like a big, dumb ox trying to break a fence. Desire looks on with a raised brow, unimpressed, but Kren's too busy to notice. He's gone full beast mode now. Alright, big guy, you actually hurt Desire there, but guess what? He's still way cooler than you. So, Kren tries to keep up the beastly charm and follows up with an even fiercer attack, but Desire's dodging like he's just playing hopscotch. Kren's punches keep landing, but Desire just takes them and weaves through like he's wearing one of those magic bulletproof jackets. The battle rages on, the two keep swinging, dodging, and punching like it's a bad action movie, and then, surprise, surprise, Desire counters with a powerful fire attack. Kren, thinking he's got everything under control, uses his earth magic to send Desire flying again. But Kren, being the show-off that he is, doesn't hold back. He shouts about how Desire's spells are no match for his impressive magical power, and that Desire only has two choices now: death by magic, or death by his fists. Oh, and he's definitely not giving Desire any time to think about it. Kren charges at him like a bull in a china shop, making sure Desire doesn't even have a chance to reverse his spells. Desire, still as cool as ever, does his best to avoid the attacks, but Kren is relentless. Seriously, someone needs to teach this guy to chill. It's like watching a dog chase its own tail. Predictable, pointless, and mildly embarrassing. Desire just barely avoids being skewered by Kren's over-the-top punches. At one point, Kren compliments Desire's persistence like it's a good thing. It's honestly the most backhanded compliment anyone could give, but Kren isn't finished. He declares that it's over for Desire now and begins summoning a weapon. Desire, always the problem solver, tries to reverse it, but even with all his magic, Desire can't manage to stop Kren's weapon from materializing. The weapon is complete and Kren's about to strike with everything he's got. Desire uses several defensive spells, but Kren refuses to back down. He pushes even harder, destroying the area around them like it's made of paper. Kren laughs maniacally and says, "This is it!" The weapon, this magical, earth-shattering masterpiece, crumbles to pieces. Desire stands there totally unharmed, while Kren's jaw nearly hits the ground. Desire casually explains that Kren's spell was rare, sure, but it was also predictable. He's been working on reversing it, and now that he finally has it down, well, too bad for Kren. It's game over. Kren, with his mind completely blown, doesn't even know how to react. Before he can do anything else, Desire starts tearing him apart. Kren, still the slow cow he is, realizes too late that Desire has already won. Desire casually uses a gem to create a fireball so powerful that it practically vaporizes Kren. Desire watches him fall, completely defeated. Kren in his last moments wonders who Desire is. But Desire, he's not even thinking about that. In fact, he doesn't know who he is either. He's too busy focusing on the role he has in this timeline. Desire's friends arrive to celebrate the victory because, of course, they did all the hard work while Kren floundered around like a beached whale. A random lady asks Desire if he's sure about his reward for protecting Rage Aral, and Desire's, on the other hand, is just happy. The lady thinks it's a weird request, but whatever, Desire is that kind of guy. Desire arrives at the magical tower and is greeted by his old friend from the future, Zod Exarion, the absolute beast of a mage. Desire's thoughts drift to the future where Zod is the strongest mage to ever exist. Not only that, but Zod's also Desire's irreplaceable friend. Desire, a little nervous, sits down with him to play chess, but Zod immediately drops the bomb that he has a meeting in 27 minutes. Of course, Desire's not fazed. He's got a strange request. He wants to play chess using the herb method. Zod's confused but agrees because, hey, it's Desire and he's used to weird stuff by now. The game begins, and Zod quickly realizes that Desire is a lot more skilled than he thought. Zod's not going easy on him, though. He's taking the lead but keeps an eye on the time. Meanwhile, Desire proposes a wager. The loser grants a wish to the winner. Zod thinks it's a bad idea since Desire's just a student, but Desire takes it up a notch by showing off his unprocessed gems and using them to extract mana with his bare hands. Zod's shocked. He demands to know how Desire did it. But Desire, ever the tease, tells him that the answer will be the wish Zod grants when he loses. Meanwhile, back at the academy, Azest sits outside, ignoring the party inside. The instructor is mad, grumbling about the unpleasant rumors. Azest doesn't care. They lost fair and square, and there's no point in pretending otherwise. The instructor's furious, reminding Asa that her performance was the reason they lost. Azest, not caring, decides it's the perfect time to quit the Blue Moon group. Elsewhere, Desire's friends are training hard to get stronger, preparing for the shadow world that will soon appear. Desire predicts it's coming in 12 days and they'll need to conquer it, or else. If they fail, the world will fall into doom. Desire's determined to save them all. Romantica, meanwhile, starts getting serious, realizing Desire's been right about so many things. They need to get stronger, and they need to do it now. Desire's training montage kicks in, everyone getting stronger, even if it's a little awkward. Asa and Romantica complete their training, and eventually the day Desire predicted arrives. An alarm goes off, Shadow World incoming. The gang heads to the teleportation gate, ready to face whatever comes next. Desire, as usual, believes this is the moment he was sent back in time for, and he's ready to change the fate of the world. Imagine what would have happened if Desire wanted to play villain. That would have been some twist. Anyways, that's the end of this recap. If you enjoyed it, hit the like, subscribe, and that bell button to stay in touch. Hasta la vista, or whatever they said. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to click on this one right here to start the most legendary binge session known to man. Also, if you want to see the full plot-filled scenes, then make sure to subscribe to our Patreon. Link will be in the description below.